I am so excited to announce that I have partnered with Magimix for season 9 of the Crazy Sexy Food podcast. Magimix is a family-owned business that has the amazing reputation as makers of quality kitchen appliances that are adored by chefs and home cooks alike. I remember growing up and always seeing my mum's beloved Magimix on her countertop and the utter ease of how she used it. With their 30-year motor guarantee, these machines have always been built to last. They continue to be relevant as ever in the busy kitchen and make fantastic food processors that make your food go further and reduce food wastage. They are a godsend when it comes to batch cooking and using up leftovers. I use my Magimix every day. If you're ready to step into the world of Magimix with a new food processor, blender, ice cream maker, or any other bit of kit, then simply pop over to their website and use my exclusive code at checkout for a 15% discount. The code is MMCSF9. Don't forget to download the Magimix app, which is full of recipes, tips, and tricks. Make it with Magimix. Hi, and welcome to the Crazy Sexy Food podcast. I'm Hannah Harley-Young. This show is all about the love of food and how it plays a part in our lives. I sit down with well-known personalities, food experts, chefs, and people who, well, just love their food, to find out all about their life, career, and their favourite tastes along the way. It felt only right to wrap up season 9 with my dear friend Chantelle Nicholson. The chef owner of Apricity restaurant in Mayfair is one of the leading voices of sustainability, seasonality, and vegetable-forward cooking. She has won 2 Green Michelin Stars, one for the much-loved Treadwells and one for Apricity. The New Zealand native stands by the mindset, food is joy, food is memories, food is cohesive, food is life. Perhaps one of the best quotes I've heard in a while, and very much the ethos I stand by too. What a way to finish the season. Chantelle, welcome to Crazy Sexy Food.
Oh, thanks.
I feel like this has been like a long time coming, because when I met you this time last year, I felt, for me anyway, it was sort of like love at first sight. I just felt like we really vibed.
We did.
We met at a food festival. We've just come off the back of Taste of London. We're a bit exhausted.
Some of us more than others.
Yeah, some of us, slightly burnt the candle at both ends, but it's fine.
But it was fun.
It was fun. And before we get into it, I believe a big congratulations is in order, because you have just won a pretty major award, which is the Innovator of the Year at the National Restaurant Awards. So huge congratulations.
Thank you.
So you were also awarded a Green Michelin Star this year as well for the restaurant. How does it feel to be recognised for your efforts in the industry?
I think it just affirms what we've been doing. And I think sometimes you have those moments where you think, oh, am I being like too pedantic? Am I being too like steadfast in what I really believe in? And so sometimes, you just question yourself, don't you? So then to have some, I guess, an external recognition, actually you're like, oh, okay, cool. No, great. On the right path.
Absolutely. And in relation to the Innovator of the Year, I mean, what does that kind of mean? What is innovating within sort of, I guess, the culinary world?
That was an interesting one, because that kind of came left field, and the reasons they gave were that because we were doing things very differently and thinking outside the box. So, for instance, just putting the team first, which is not that usual in hospitality. Looking at, I guess, a kind of 360 approach. So looking at, I put in a shower for the team, so that people want to cycle to work, they can. We have a curfew, so no one leaves the restaurant super late. They can all get home with public transport. We have a kids tasting menu.
You've got a kids tasting menu.
Yeah, so just doing things cool. A bit differently.
Are adults allowed to order the kids tasting menu?
No. They have tried before, and we're like, slightly different portion sizes. So there is an adult tasting menu.
Okay, I see what you mean. So it really is thinking out the box, and also just kind of actually putting into effect the things that probably should have been around much longer than they have been, such as things like curfews, because obviously the industry is not what it used to be, and that's probably a good thing in a way, right?
Yeah, and it came about during COVID when everyone had to, I think, leave by 10 p.m.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And we were like, this is amazing because, sometimes there's like one table left with two people. They may be having a great chat, but, they're just having a glass of, they may even just be finishing up. So drinking water, and there's like 12 people that can't go home.
Yeah.
For the sake of, so it's kind of, for me, I was like, that just doesn't really make sense. So actually, let's try and just make it work and make it happen. And no one's kicked back on it either. I think it's when you explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, I think there can't really be too much of a comeback.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations for that, because obviously you are on the right path somewhere if people are awarding you these sorts of awards. So I always start my conversations with asking, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I don't eat breakfast.
Okay.
So
is this a thing in like the chef world? Because nearly every chef I've sat down and spoken to does not eat breakfast.
No, so I used to eat breakfast up until probably 5 years ago. I was like, no, you must have breakfast. Everyone must eat breakfast. And then I started fasting, and it was life-changing. So I've had coffee. This is my third cup of coffee.
Oh, okay.
So I love
She's
coffee.
running on the caffeine.
Love coffee.
So your first meal will be when? You'll be lunch?
Okay. Mid-afternoon.
Okay, that's fine. So before we sort of get into all of the exciting things you've done with your life, we must take it back to your childhood. You were born and raised in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what life was like growing up, who was cooking, what was on the table, sort of paint the whole picture.
So I think we were always surrounded by food, and I always loved food from a young age, like probably too much at some points. And the cooking, everyone, actually, my mum, my dad probably actually cooked a bit more than my mum, but we always had, home cooked food, I guess. We always had vegetables growing in the garden, whether it was just a little bit or, small things or kind of a bit more than that. And so my mum's sister married a man, my uncle, who was a 5th generation orchard in Central Otago in New Zealand.
Okay.
So every second summer, we would drive the whole length of New Zealand, which took about a day and a half or 2 days, and spend summer. So every second summer we would spend on the orchard, which was just like incredible. I mean, we worked, so it wasn't like it was, but it was just in one of the most beautiful parts of the world. And it's got these lovely dry, hot summers, just surrounded with incredible fruit. So cherries, peaches, apricots, nectarines.
Oh, divine.
And my uncle just has the most green fingers. So we would we'd take a bowl, go to the garden, dig the potatoes for dinner, just give them a quick rinse, pop them in the pan, in a pot, and they are the best. I've never had a potato like those potatoes since. And then for pudding, we'd take a bowl out to the raspberry vine and just pick raspberries and have fresh cream. And it was just, awesome whole food, which I think I never really appreciated until I guess now, where I'm like, that is just like so privileged, and I was so lucky to have that as my childhood, really.
I mean, you sort of think about those stories, especially like, someone like me who's been born and raised in like a really bustling city, to be able to sort of grow up and have that on your literal doorstep.
I know.
It's beautiful.
It was so beautiful. And then I had another aunt on my dad's side actually, and they were all very good cooks, but she went and lived in America. So then she brought back a very different type of cuisine. Yeah. So like coriander, we hadn't even had coriander probably till I was like 8. So she got really into kind of Mexican food and cooking and just things that we didn't even know. So I had kind of all these different things coming at me, which was just amazing.
So if you could sort of think of like 1 or 2 dishes that probably like represented your childhood, what would you say they were?
Oh my gosh, that's a really tricky one. I think, one of a really basic one, I guess, which it's probably not a great representation, but in some ways and we had a microwave, which was quite weird. Oh. Like I think my parents were like, this is easy. This is going to save us some time. Let's get a microwave. And so there was this dish called, so in New Zealand, there's a cookery book that everybody has. Every household has an Edmonds cookery book, and it has baking. It has literally like how to make a chutney. It's got everything in it. Yeah. And there was a recipe in it for corn bake. Okay. And corn bake is basically, so in New Zealand, we also have creamed sweet corn in a can, which is just like delicious.
Sounds amazing.
So it's almost like a can of cream sweet corn, a can of whole kernel corn, some eggs, some cheese,
Fabulous.
bit of milk, and then pop it in the microwave. So it makes this like really cheesy, and it's like the easiest meal, but super delicious. So I guess that was kind of like the comfort food. And then I guess on the other side of the scale, yeah, I mean, we had lots of barbecues because we were in New Zealand as well. And that was kind of, but I would say it was probably, we did have a lot of veg growing up. And I remember my dad was a school teacher, and at his high school, it's almost like it's a bit like a crop shift. So like someone would have excess feijoas, which are another this amazing fruit in New Zealand. So you'd kind of be able to, he would bring them home from school because he would have bought them from someone. And asparagus. So the very first seasoned as asparagus, one of the other teachers at the school must have been growing asparagus. So we would get kind of these massive bags of asparagus and just the first ones of the season. So like everything we ate seasonally, I think it's because New Zealand's so small and isolated at that point, food wasn't really imported. So we did literally eat. And I think that's how I know what seasons are with food.
Because it was sort of naturally ingrained in you. It was just the norm. One.
Yeah. And I remember when I first moved to London and going into M&S and being like, oh my God, what? Like, there's everything. There's like asparagus, there's strawberries. I was like, how is this all coexisting in September? I was like, wow, this is cool. And then after a while, I was like, this is not cool.
Yeah. Which kind of like actually brings me on to that question of, because you are quite known for your sustainability, you're really advocating for eating seasonally, eating your vegetables. Would you say that the mindset was very much there, not because it was sort of drilled in you, but because that was just your way of life? That was just what you knew? Yeah,
100%. And I think, I saw firsthand food being grown, being produced, and the hard work that goes into it as well, and how, I guess, vulnerable you are to the seasons and to the weather. And then also getting excited by what that was. And, we would always shop at the greengrocer to get our, big, massive greengrocer we're talking here that was kind of just off a highway. So a big greengrocer, we'd go and get all of our vegetables for the week. And in the supermarket, we'd get just, everything else really. Yeah. So, it was purely the norm.
Fast forwarding a little bit, when I was doing my research on you, I didn't know this about you. You trained to become a lawyer.
I did.
At some point in your life. Where did that change happen? I mean, why step away from that to become a chef?
So I was nearing the end of high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Food was never an option to do as a career. It was that I would go to university. That was just kind of the plan. So I knew which university I wanted to go to, which was this like awesome student town in the opposite end of New Zealand. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, I'll do something that's quite broad and generic. So I thought if I do law, and it was called commerce then, but I guess it's like business studies management. So if I do both of those together, then surely I'll figure something out. And it was in my third year, I think it was, that I thought, right, I really need a job, because my student loan was like, getting exponentially larger by the day. So I thought, why don't I go and see if I can get a job cooking? Because I loved cooking.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I can do, and I wasn't that enamored with what I was studying, to be fair. I put in kind of the minimal effort that I needed to. So I thought I'll do something that actually I want to do. So I thought, how am I going to, who's going to give me a job? So I walked into this cafe that I loved and just said, look, I've got no experience, but I'm just dropping off my CV. I'm looking for a part-time job. And as fate would have it, they said, well, we were literally about to advertise for a weekend cook. We're happy to give you a go. So it was literally trial. I had to be there at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, which for a student
is unacceptable.
Is like,
that's the time you're getting
home, right? I was going to work. They were all coming home. So it started off just baking and making brunch. And then when I had my next summer holiday, went to work actually in a restaurant kitchen. It was originally as a kitchen porter, but then I just kind of started working as a chef.
And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah.
And so from that moment, did you end up finishing your degree?
I did. And I, again, kind of did the minimum because I ended up just working full time because I was like, this is just great. And I just loved it. So I worked full time, finished off my degrees, and then kept working full time in the restaurant. And then my mum said to me, you've spent 4.5 years of your life and a lot of money getting these, degrees. I just think you should give it a go. Like it may not be for you, but I would just really like you to give it a go. And I was like, that's some wise words. So I thought,
no.
right, I'm going to do it. So I did. So I moved to Wellington, which is the capital city of New Zealand. And it took me a while to find a job, but I got a job for the banking ombudsman.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, so very, very different to food.
Yeah.
And so did my bar exam part-time whilst I was working there. Worked there for about, I think it was almost a year and a half. But again, as fate would have it, I randomly entered a cooking competition, which was none other than Mr. Ramsay's cooking competition that he held in New Zealand. The only time it's ever happened. No idea why, but it did. So randomly entered it, randomly got into the actual competition. I think there was 12 of us. And then the next day it went down to 6, managed to get into that 6. And one of the judges was a New Zealander who was the head chef at the Savoy Grill called Josh Emmett. And he said to me after I obviously didn't, win or anything, but he said to me, there's a job at the Savoy Grill whenever you want it. Just let me know. Here's my email. And then this is such a New Zealand story. It turns out that Josh's parents had actually bought their house off my parents.
What?
And so we grew up in the same town. So this is just complete random. Yeah. So this kind of 1 degree of separation. He's like, yeah, my parents bought their house off your parents. So I was like, okay, this is really weird. Wow. And then so I literally went into work the next day, handed in my notice and got my visa and thought, well, I'll come to London for 2 years and just see what happens.
And she's never left. She's never turned back.
19 years ago. It's like, wow.
Chantelle, that's a really beautiful story. It's sort of a story full of total and utter sort of ambition to actually follow your heart.
Like, there was no planning.
No planning, which I think we should all take a little something from. And sort of right place, right time, sort of, I love that. I didn't know parts of that story. And so, okay, so you go to the Savoy Grill.
Yes.
And then I guess from there you're sort of working your way up.
I mean, I loved it. It was, and so I'd gone from my previous, my office job, I think, was 7.5-hour days, they weren't the most thrilling of days, let's be honest, to 18-hour days on my feet in a kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was just like, whoa. But I loved it. I mean, it was, exhausting, and my feet were so sore for the first couple of weeks. But I was just like, wow, there's just so much to learn.
And how long did you spend at the Savoy?
I think just under 2 years, I think it was.
And from there you moved?
And from there I went over to Petrus, which was at the Berkeley Hotel at that point in time.
And from there?
From there I then opened the Gilbert Scott in St Pancras. From there opened Treadwell's in Covent Garden. There then opened, before Apricity, opened a pop-up in London Fields called All's Well during the pandemic. And then Apricity last April.
Incredible. What a story. I love that. So I'm going to get to your present day sort of career, but I must ask, because I love this one when I ask a chef, do you cook a lot at home?
So interestingly, like I used to cook at home all of the time. And then when I started working as a chef, I didn't, because I didn't have any time. And it was only during COVID, so that first lockdown, that I actually reconnected with myself.
Yeah.
That's when I kind of had my epiphany, I guess, and was like, what am I doing? Like, this needs to change. That's when I started, cooking for myself again. And I was like, yes, this is really important. Yeah, this is so important.
It is important.
And I think then what was interesting is when I opened Allswell, it was a tiny kitchen, like the size of, smaller than this actually. And it was just me and one other. And so some nights it would just be me cooking. So all throughout that the third lockdown, I would open on a Saturday and just do takeaways. And it was just me in the kitchen. Wow. So I was just back to cooking. And I was like, I've just had my own little full circle
Yeah,
moment,
I love that.
really.
And so what would you say inspires you as a cook, or I guess even inspires you as a chef?
There's a lot of that. Like I get inspired by random things, and like produce is one. Like I'll just go and I'll be like, yes, I want this and I want that. I was at the farmer's market yesterday, which I've got around the corner from me, which is amazing. I'm just like, oh yes, oh some of that, some dill, some creme fraiche and potatoes, like just the whole thing. And then I kind of get excited. And I think just people that are doing cool stuff, as in growers, producers, makers, and I'm like, I want to use their ingredients or what they're making, because it's just, I love what they do, and they've got that kind of right. Yeah, I just think you can feel when someone is genuinely passionate and loving with what they do with food.
So let's talk about Treadwell's, because that was where you sort of became chef owner. It was in Covent Garden, and this was where you won a Green Michelin star. So what is a Green Michelin star?
So Michelin's definition of it is an establishment that serves great food, but is also focusing a lot on sustainability.
I'm glad they've done that, but is that quite a new thing, or has it been going on for a while?
So I think the first 2021, so that was when we won it at Treadwell's. That was the first year. So This is maybe the third.
Okay, no,
I think it was.
I am glad they're doing it, because I feel like it was needed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when I first met you last year, that was the first time I think I'd ever heard of it. Because when I'd met you at Taste of London last year, I was like, when I was reading about you, I was like, Green Michelin star, what's this? Love this. So talk to me about Treadwell's, because this was a much loved restaurant, and hugely popular. What was your time like there?
So I opened it obviously for someone else and then took it over. So I think for me it was a huge learning curve again. Big site, 3 floors.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was huge, and it was, massive 7-day week operation. It was just non-stop.
Yeah.
And there's times that I loved it. There's times that I loathed it. There's times it felt like a shackle. And I think that's when COVID hit. It was kind of just a chance for me to actually reassess and say, hold on, what do I want here? And I got to a point where I felt like I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole with it. And I was like, actually, you know what? I just need to, this is something that's had its time and place with me. And now I need to move on to something that's actually more aligned with what I want to do. And just from an area perspective, and just, it was great. And I, actually just opening it, and, I do love the buzz of kind of opening something new, and just like being able to, all the touch points, and just decide them and actually create something and bring it to life. But I think I just realized that actually, for me and for my own, personal well-being and mental health, and just what I wanted to do in order to kind of move forward, I was like, actually, this has had its time. I need to kind of, pass it on to someone else, and then open something that's more aligned.
And do you feel like one of those factors may have been the fact that it was such a huge restaurant? I mean, I can't imagine managing or owning whilst cooking a place like that. It was big. It was a big place.
It was big, but I think there was also, like I used to get such a kind of rush out of, kind of a 350 cover dinner service. And I was like, when it all goes well, it's just like, it is a beautiful thing. And it's just a real sense of achievement, I think. But yeah, I just felt like I'd kind of, it had come to its time.
As things do. And so you are now at a beautiful restaurant. Your beautiful, can we call it your baby? It's like, Apricity, which for me is very much at the forefront of this sustainability and sort of innovation, shall we say. How do you make a restaurant sustainable in this day and age?
I think it is very much thinking about the 360 approach to it. And I think I don't think we've come out with the right word yet, because I think sustainability is just, doesn't cut it for me. And I think also, if you look at it, break it down to the definition, we don't want to sustain things. We want to make them better. So I guess for me, I kind of tend to, bet about the word regenerative and regeneration, because I think we need to rejuvenate what we're doing. So I think for me, that was very much what I wanted to do from the outset, was kind of, rather than it just being, a restaurant and thinking about the food, drinks and the service. It was like, okay, how can it be a bit more than the sum of its parts? So how can I do the things I guess that I always felt uncomfortable with in our industry? How could I change those? And what could I change? And there's some bits that you can, there's some bits you can't. And it's always, it's constantly a balancing act, really. But I guess for me, it's just thinking about the bigger picture and saying, how can we minimize negative impacts and maximize positive impacts?
So would you say it's difficult to run it at the way that you're running it? And not maybe not difficult, but is it challenging? Is it like in a good way? Is it a positive challenge? Okay, how can we do this differently to kind of keep in line with what we believe in and what our ethos is?
100%. And it's a good challenge, I would say. And I kind of, part of me hoped that actually by doing it, I'd make it easier for others to just be able to be like, okay, great, that's what we need to do. Not, whereas we're like, okay, do we do this? Do we do this? Do we do this? We can be like, okay, we've looked into it, researched, this is what we feel is the best way. Therefore, this is what we recommend. So if you want to, get rid of cling film in your kitchen, this is what we do. If you want to...
What do you do?
Just containers with lids.
Just checking.
Yeah.
So that I know that I'm leading I know you don't like the word or whatever, but sustainable kitchen, household.
No. But also just, it's the thing that I find too quite interesting about it is it's just none of this is super new.
Yeah.
It's all just going back to what, my grandmother and Nana did, that was very much about wasting as little as possible and getting the most out of everything, and just really respecting and valuing resources, and whether that's a people resource, a food resource, or equipment, anything. It's actually just saying, how can we ensure that this can, we're giving it respect for the value that it's creating.
Something that I really love about the restaurant, because I know that you've mentioned sort of the things that you did in terms of like, I guess, why you won the Innovation Award in the first place. But please sort of tell everyone the aspects of the restaurant. So the chairs were from another restaurant that had shut down.
Yes. Yeah.
And talk about the chandelier that's above the staircase.
So the chandelier is made from plastic bottles. So
Incredible.
Use plastic bottles.
But it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like.
No, it's so beautiful, right? And I found it, and it's just what kind of one woman band that she makes them. She's an artist and she makes these amazing. And I emailed her saying, look, I'd really like one of these for the restaurant. And she said, oh, I'm about to have a baby, so it's going to be probably this many months. And I was like, do you know what? That's great. I'll get something in the interim. So I think I bought something off eBay, put it up there, and then as soon as that was ready, we put it in, because I was like, this just epitomizes what I want this to be about. It's made by a woman that's really passionate about what she does. Mm-hmm. She's using upcycled materials, and it's, we're giving her space to be able to showcase what she does as well. Yeah, no, I love it. And I also just love the way that you've designed it. I don't know if this has got anything to do with sort of the focus on, thinking about, or consciously thinking about the decisions we make in our lives, but like the walls are not like sort of painted white or whatever. They're sort of, it's just literally, so is it the plaster, or have you made it? No, we had a plan too, because when we saw it, it was a white box. So we had a plan to, once the plasterboard came off, was to put, paint the walls. But when we took the plaster off, it was like, this is so beautiful. And also I love the fact that it's just like, this is it in its raw natural state, and we haven't done anything to it. It's literally like, no, instead of kind of covering something up, it's like, no, let's just let this, and you kind of think about all the things that have happened in that space over the last, kind of 100 years. It's just such a cool, I guess we're kind of respecting its history. I find it quite warm and inviting in a way, actually. I think it's that colour too. Like I was very intent. I think after Treadwells, I was like, I want a pink restaurant. I was like, I need a pink restaurant. But it's not like sort of like a pink like you're wearing. No. It's like it's just a warm sort of, I don't know. It's really glow. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a warm glow. It is really lovely. So sort of focusing on the food, I think something that is really key to mention is that although you're all about sort of vegetable forward cooking, you are also serving meat and fish. 100%. And I think that's also really important in a way. But obviously, you're sourcing your meat and fish from reputable people and whatnot. Talk to us about the menu and sort of what we can look forward to if we do come and dine there. Yeah, it's interesting because people have said to me in the past, it's all vegetarian, isn't it? Or it's all plant-based. It's like, no. And actually, for me personally, I feel that we need animals in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, actually,
I feel the same.
And we get, as long as it's done in the right way, and it's, and it's delicious, right? We've got to remember joy. Food is about joy. So,
as you said in your quote,
well, quote myself. Yeah, and I just think it's just, for me, it's like, actually, and I wanted to kind of remove the faff. I'm a very practical person as well. So I'm like, I just don't want the faff. I just want delicious food on a plate. And also, I think one thing that we need to do as a society is embrace imperfection in food, or embrace its terroir. We do it with wine. We're like, right, wine from here is going to be like this, it's going to be like this. And we're like, that's amazing. Yet we then, a carrot grown in Yorkshire shouldn't really taste the same as a carrot grown in Kent, but we expect them to look the same and taste the same. Actually, no, we should like really hero that. And so I think for me it is, it's a bit of imperfect food on a plate in some ways, maybe aesthetically, but actually flavour-wise, that's where the kind of intensity comes from. And so we work with as many kind of local small producers as we can, and the menu changes frequently. We don't print our menus because actually, originally I didn't want the kind of output, but what it's done on the flip side, it's just saved, our most valuable resource is people and time. And we've all spent a lot of time fighting with a printer in our lives. It is not a good use of our time.
I was earlier printing out my bloody questions.
It is not a good use of our time, right? And it's quite soul destroying sometimes. So it's just so nice not to have printed menus. So yeah, we change it up a lot. We have, and we also, so in terms of, we have a tasting menu, we have a 5-course and a 7-course, and the kids as well. And previously at Trebor's, we used to have a plant-based tasting menu and then a carnivorous, meaty, fishy, And when we opened Apricity, I thought, well, actually, can we mix it up? So what we do now is for each course, you can choose either a plant-based option or a non-plant-based. So you can mix it up. You can have the mushrooms and then have fish and then have the cauliflower, or you can have the ox tongue, or it's just, and I think it's a good way to get people, rather than being like prescriptive and saying you need to eat more vegetables, it's like, actually try them. And then you're not kind of feeling like you're missing out on anything either.
And it's also a la carte as well.
100%, yeah.
Which, amazing. You also have a very sexy mac and cheese on the menu as well.
Cheese.
Yeah, there we go. Naughty, and I love it.
It's a good one. Yes. Made with wonderful pasta from Cornwall that's made with ancient grains.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's delicious.
There we go. So, I mean, listen, I don't feel like there's sort of one answer here or sort of one definitive sort of thought process here, but do you feel like in our lifetime we will see a change in the way that we all lead our lives, or do you feel like it's going to take a hell of a lot longer? Whether it's in our day-to-day, whether it's the bare minimum for me is like recycling. That for me is like your entry level way of leading a slightly better life.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're going to be forced to change.
Yeah.
And I think that as people, as a society, we kind of need to be, and we kind of need a bit of a stick approach, not a carrot approach, unfortunately. And, I just think the phenomenon of what happened with plastic bags in this country was insane. 5p and everyone stopped using them.
Yeah,
it's like,
I know,
guys, they've
gone up to 10p or something,
haven't
they now?
It's just such a simple thing. And I just feel like there needs to be a bit more of that, and there's things that I'm just upset that haven't happened.
What?
I'm really upset with this recent kicking the can down the road about the junk food buy one get one free that was supposed to come into force.
Okay.
And now he's just pushed it back 2 years. And I just think it's just like
so sort of like in like supermarkets. So like let's say like you can buy a packet of crisps, and if you buy one you get okay.
So that was going to be banned.
Right.
So that wouldn't happen. Just from a health perspective, I think we're looking at, we're humans, we like food. And if there's 2 for 1, we'll get 2, right? Rather than and we'll eat 2. Well, I would, rather than just having 1.
Yeah.
So I just think sometimes there's things that need to happen. And I think that, our health as a nation is just deteriorating at a very rapid rate. So again, like more whole foods, more vegetables, more pulses is 100% the way to go. but no one's steering it that way.
Yeah.
So
Well, you are, Chantelle. You
not
are.
enough.
Yeah, but
Anyone
can I
else
just
needs
but
to-
can I just say something? And I promise you, I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here and you're on my podcast, and I have to be nice to you. I don't have to be nice to
You have
you.
to be nice to
no,
me, no.
but like you've done two things since I've met you. There's two things that have actually changed my perception on certain types of food. One of them was last year when you taught me how to make ricotta cheese, which if you'd asked me before that day whether that was possible in my own house in this kitchen, I would have been like, no, I think I need loads of different equipment. I'm not, I couldn't do it. And you did. And we made it at Taste of London last year. And it absolutely blew my mind how simple it was. And then this year, you taught me about a vegetable, the marrow fat peas. I know you're like massively championing them at the moment. I knew what they were because on sort of like a surface level, we know them as like mushy peas, right?
Yeah.
But I would never in a million years buy them. I would eat them out. And honestly, the next day I was sorting out all my food shopping and they were part of my part of my list.
Delicious, right?
And it's just little small ways of just slightly retraining your brain to be like, no, you can make ricotta cheese at home. It's really easy.
Yeah, that 2 litres of milk that you're going to throw down the sink.
Exactly.
Pour down the sink. Don't. Just make some ricotta.
And you also said, actually, I'm just going to just keep like, I've got a whole script here. The other thing that I must ask you, if you remember off the top of your head, the statistics that I think are quite incredible about what the most wasted food is in this country. Go for it.
Top 7. Bread, milk, bagged salad, which is a recipe for all three of those on Saturday Kitchen that I did a couple of weeks ago. Just saying. Bananas, potatoes. They're the top 5 from memory. Yeah.
But that's just wild to me because I think of something like bread and there's actually so many incredible things you can do with stale bread.
So many.
Right?
So many. And like bagged salad leaves, that's the other thing. Everyone's just like, oh, just throw them away and that's another one that you kind of always get 2 for 1, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like just bang them in a blender, make some pesto, like so easy. Yeah.
As a leading female voice in the industry, sort of bringing it back to sort of, I guess, like the day-to-day of a chef, do you think that sort of the female chef in general has a better place in the industry than before, perhaps maybe when you were starting out? Have you seen changes?
I guess I have because, well, I've seen changes, but then I don't know if it's changes I've just brought about, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So we have, I think we are about 85% female in our kitchen and have been fluctuated between 75 and 85 since we opened. And that's not a conscious decision. It's just what has come to us. But I think there are more places that are thinking about the teens and putting them at the forefront rather than it being an afterthought. So I'm hoping that it is, and there's very different roles and places that, can suit everyone. So I do hope that it is more of because it is such an amazing industry to have a career in because you can do kind of everything.
Yeah.
And it teaches you every skill there is. So it's something that we just need to get more people into it in general.
Totally.
It doesn't really matter if they're female, male. I just think more people in the industry is a good thing.
Absolutely. So any of you aspiring lawyers at law school who are looking for a Saturday job or whatever, go to Chantelle.
Yes.
She knows what that feels like.
Give me a call. Absolutely.
When you are away from your own restaurant, where are some of your favourite restaurants to go to?
So I love simplicity. I think is probably just, great produce or like really intense flavours. One of my favourite restaurants is Super One in King's Cross.
Yes.
On Caledonian Road. Witchett that runs it. It's just like, it's food alchemy. Like the flavours are just so intense and delicious. Also, because it's around where I live, I love quality wines. Yep. Again, just like really delicious, packed full of flavour food. For me, it's just very much about kind of simple, delicious is a kind of my...
Absolutely. Are you a starter or dessert person?
Starter.
Yeah, me too.
More savoury.
Yeah, same, always.
Although it depends what the pudding is, to be honest. I always call them puddings, not desserts. I don't know why
What's sort of like your sort of desert island pudding. Like
I do love an apple tart done
okay, oh,
with ice cream.
when it's
Like
all
so
been caramelized.
yes.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
and I think it's got the savouriness to it. I think
Yeah.
I don't like overly sweet pudding. So for me, it's got to have, if it's got a savouriness and then you've got the kind of hit of the
the bit of
like
tartness. Yes.
ice cream needs to kind of balance it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I take that. What 3 items are always in your fridge?
Wine.
Love the honesty.
Wine, Kerrygold butter,
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt, and vegetables. Yeah,
Of course.
always.
Of
Probably
course.
always cabbage, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, always cabbage. There's always cabbage in my fridge.
Right. We've come to a very important part of the conversation. This is my quick fire questions. For some reason, my guests just love to keep talking, and that's fine. I won't stop you. But let's see how we do. Okay. What is the craziest food you've ever eaten?
Oh my gosh, the craziest food. I don't think I've eaten crazy food.
It could be like quite subjective. So, I mean, for some people, crazy food could be snails or caviar.
Ox tongue.
I've never tried tongue.
Well, you need to come and have it. It's on at the restaurant.
I don't know if it's
really
for
delicious.
me.
No,
My
it
husband
is.
loves
I was the
tongue
same.
sandwich.
It's delicious. Trust me, delicious.
I'm going to use tongue as your one
Yeah, okay,
because that would be
let's go.
crazy for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Marry fat peas. Not so crazy.
Not anymore. Okay. What has been your most memorable meal?
My most memorable meal, I would say, this is really bizarre, but it was probably, 15 years ago maybe. And it was when I was working crazy hours. And I met my mum and my sister we were going to Capri. Well, they were somewhere else and they were meeting me. And we just sat on this it was a really nondescript restaurant, just literally kind of by the side of the road, but by the sea. So we're looking out into the sea. We had salad caprese that was the best, the sweetest tomatoes, warm, room temperature tomatoes, good salt, olive oil, mozzarella, basil, and a glass of rosé. And it was literally just, I was like, this is just, again, just like great, simple produce. Time and place is a big part of food as well.
It's back to your quote, joy and memories. That's what food is about.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
Do you know what? Also, there's the simplicity of Italian cooking.
I know, which is good produce.
Yeah.
Like great tomatoes, great olive oil.
Speaking actually of a cuisine that's sort of all about its produce and sort of not having to scour the other side of the world just to kind of bring in those flavors. They have it all there, done. And what I love about Italian food, it could just be a tomato on a plate.
Exactly.
And it's still the best thing you've ever eaten in your life.
100%.
I love that.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Totally.
Something I recently discovered about you is that you and I have a little bond over a particular something. So my favorite question ever to ask is, obviously, as you know, my favorite snack of all time is a packet of Monster Munch, which is beautifully sitting in pride and place next to me. What is your favorite flavor of crisp? I don't even know why I'm asking, and why.
It is pickled onion Monster Munch. But then it is followed. It's also depending on the moment, though.
Okay.
Because my other favorite crisp is one that you detest, which is really interesting.
Wait, which one was it? I've forgotten.
Tyrrell's.
Oh,
Tyrrell's salt and vinegar.
Now the bloody Tyrrells.
Yeah, exactly. So pickled onion Monster Munch, depending on what I'm eating in time.
Yeah, okay.
Because pickled onion Monster Munch, great with champagne, great with gin and tonic.
Yes,
but with
this
beer,
is what we were talking about, wasn't it?
But with beer, and I love beer. I love IPA, especially hazy IPA. Crisps.
Okay.
Tyrrells. We can agree to disagree.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
Yeah.
I'm also going to throw something out into the mix there. And I'm going to say, have you ever tried the Co-op own brand salt and vinegar crisps?
No.
Right. I have a feeling, depending if whether you can handle it, because they're strong. I mean, they really sort of give you ulcers, or take all your taste buds. I mean,
like pickled onion Monster
Yeah,
Munch does.
basically, yeah. I'd say even more intense. They are incredible. They are a thing of legend.
They are on my list.
And I'm going to bring some over to you one day because I'd like to experience it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I think we do need to have a crisp.
No, we do. We've already discussed that we're going to do a little something.
This is true.
Coming to a social media platform near you soon.
Yes.
Okay. What food sums up happiness for you?
A juicy, ripe apricot picked from the tree in Central Otago.
Oh,
I'm telling you, no other apricot has ever come close.
really?
And like, everyone's like, apricots, they're kind of average. But
No.
until you have these apricots.
Do you go back there?
The last time I was back was 4 years ago, but I'm trying to plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, final question. Live to eat or eat to live?
I mean, really? Do we even need
Do I
to
have
ask
to ask
this
this damn question?
Like, what would life be without food?
Well, quite. But some people, I find it's a philosophical question. There are some people who have sat at this table and have really shocked me because perhaps of maybe what they do. They could be in the food world. And they have said that they eat to live.
I just don't know what I think about all day.
But I don't know what that feels like.
No.
Sometimes I wish I was a bit like that.
Yes,
but,
yeah. I think we all have days where we're like, please.
Yes. All right, Hannah, put down the Monster Munch.
Exactly. Don't open it. Don't open it. Oh, too late.
Oh, Chantelle, thank you so much for joining me. Honestly, I think you are a total breath of fresh air to this industry. There is a reason why you are winning these awards. And I know it's not about, the winning and sort of the recognition, but also I do think it is actually about the recognition because what you are doing is brilliant. And I hope that more people will follow in your footsteps. Wishing you the best of luck with everything that you put your hands and your mind to. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
Until next time.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. If you love what you hear, please subscribe and review. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram @CrazySexyFood and check out the Crazy Sexy Food YouTube channel. Until next time, bye.